It happens almost every night. You get into bed, the room goes dark, and suddenly, your brain wakes up. Not slowly, instantly, like a switch being flipped in the wrong direction. The conversation you had 3 days ago, the thing you should have said, the email you forgot to send, the vague, shapeless dread that something tomorrow is going to go wrong. It all floods in at once, louder than it was during the day, sharper, more insistent, impossible to push away. You've tried everything, counting, breathing, scrolling until your eyes ache. But the thoughts keep coming. And somewhere in the middle of it, you wonder, is something wrong with me? There isn't. But the real reason this happens is far stranger than you think. Your brain at night is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is running a process so ancient, so deeply wired into the architecture of your nervous system that no amount of modern comfort has managed to shut it off. To understand why, you have to go back. Not years, thousands of years. Back to a version of you that had a very different problem. Your ancestors did not have alarm clocks. They did not have locked doors or climate control or a roof that guaranteed warmth. What they had was fire and darkness and a world full of things that could kill them. Anthropologist David Sampson, who studies sleep across cultures and species, has documented something that disrupts almost everything we assumed about early human sleep. Prehistoric humans almost certainly did not sleep in one long, unbroken stretch. They slept in shifts. Different members of a group would remain awake at different times throughout the night, keeping watch, monitoring the perimeter, alert to sounds and movements in the dark. Uninterrupted sleep was not a luxury. It was a vulnerability. Think about what that means for your brain. For tens of thousands of years, the moments just before and just after sleep were not moments of peace. They were moments of heightened threat assessment. Your nervous system learned to use the transition between wakefulness and sleep as a scanning window. A time to run through everything unresolved, everything dangerous, everything that needed to be tracked. That is not anxiety. That is evolution doing exactly what evolution does. Here is where it gets more specific. During the day, your brain is busy. There is input arriving constantly. Visual data, sound, tasks, conversations, social cues. All of that incoming noise competes for your attention, and it wins. The unresolved things, the worries, the memories, the unfinished loops. They are still there, but they are drowned out. Then night comes. The input stops, and those signals, which were never quiet, just unheard, rush forward to fill the space. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker, who has spent decades studying the sleeping brain, describes this as the brain's default mode network coming fully online. The default mode network is the system that activates when you are not focused on any external task. It is the part of your brain that generates self-referential thought, memory consolidation, future simulation, the replay of past events. And it becomes loudest exactly when external stimulation drops to zero. In other words, the thoughts you can't stop thinking at night are not intruding. They are surfacing. They were always there. Night just removes everything that was covering them. But there is a specific type of thought that tends to dominate. Not happy memories. Not neutral planning. Threat-relevant content. Things that feel unresolved. Things that could go wrong. Things tied to social evaluation. What someone thinks of you. Whether you handled something wrong. Whether you are safe inside your relationships. This is not random. This is the brain running its most urgent maintenance protocol. Psychologist Eddie Ben Simon, researching the link between sleep and emotional processing, found that a sleep-deprived brain shows dramatically heightened reactivity to negative stimuli, with the emotional regulation centers going offline, while threat detection systems stay fully powered. The brain in the dark, especially when sleep is being resisted or delayed, is primed to interpret ambiguous information as threatening. Your ancestors lying awake near a dying fire, listening for sounds in the brush. Their brains were doing the same thing, scanning for threat, reviewing the day's social interactions, checking for anything that could harm them. You are lying in a room with no predators, no fire, no brush. But your brain does not know that. It is running the same ancient subroutine on entirely modern problems, and it cannot tell the difference between a threat to your physical survival and a threat to your social standing, your career, your sense of self. That embarrassing thing you said 5 years ago, your brain files that under the same category as a predator in the dark. And it keeps returning to it for the same reason it would have kept returning to the sound of something moving in the trees. Not because you are weak, because you are wired for survival. Here is the part that almost nobody talks about. The rumination itself, the repetitive cycling through the same thoughts, serves a function, or at least it used to. Evolutionary psychologist Paul Andrews has proposed what he calls the analytical rumination hypothesis. He argues that depressive rumination, the kind of sustained, repetitive, involuntary thought that keeps you awake running the same loop, is not a malfunction. It is the brain attempting to solve a problem it perceives as complex and social in nature. The repetition is the brain's way of holding a problem in working memory long enough to find an exit, a resolution, a path forward. The problem is that many modern worries don't have exits. There is no action you can take at 2 in the morning to resolve a conflict that happened at work. There is no decision you can make right now about the uncertain future. But your brain keeps cycling anyway because the process evolved in a world where sustained focus on a threat almost always produced an actionable answer. The predator moved left. You moved right. Problem resolved. Your anxiety about what your colleague meant by that comment? No resolution available at 2 in the morning. But the brain does not know to stop trying. So what actually happens when you can't stop? When the loop runs long enough, the body begins to interpret the wakefulness itself as a threat. Cortisol rises, heart rate increases slightly. The amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, becomes more active, which makes the thoughts feel more urgent, which makes sleep harder, which raises cortisol further. This is the spiral. And it is not a sign of weakness. It is a feedback loop built into the oldest parts of your nervous system, doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world it was not built for. The strangest part of all of this is what it reveals about your days. If the night is when your brain finally has the space to surface everything unresolved, then the relentlessness of modern daytime life is functioning as a kind of suppression system. You stay busy. You fill every moment with tasks and screens and input. And for a few hours each evening, you might manage to keep the loop quiet. But it is still running. It always is. The night does not create your anxiety. It reveals it. Those thoughts that arrive when the lights go out, the unfinished conversations, the regrets, the rehearsals for tomorrow. They were with you all day. You just couldn't hear them. Your ancestors couldn't drown them out either. But they didn't try to. They lay awake by the fire, watching the dark, and let the vigilance run its course. Tonight, when you get into bed, and the room goes dark, and the thoughts start coming, you'll know what's actually happening. Your brain isn't broken. It isn't betraying you. It's doing something ancient, something stubborn, something that kept your ancestors alive through 10,000 dark and dangerous nights. The world changed. The wiring didn't. And somewhere between the predator it was watching for and the alarm you set for tomorrow, your brain is still, quietly, keeping watch.